Hi everyone, Happy New Year and welcome back to No More Future. Last we left off, sorry I'm in the saving screen. Last we left off, well, Mary and CEO dude, yeah, it's been some time, saved our butt. Or, yeah, I think so. I think that's what I remember, hopefully. Oh, Jasper, there we go. Mary and Jasper. Mary enters the room with a I've read that. Mary? Jasper? After all the stress you've had to endure, even the sight of the mean-looking lizard is enough to relieve you some of your anxiety. Of course, the feeling is hardly mutual. It's kind of mad. I get it. It's like, have you been telling company secrets to this agent due to this Fed? That's Mr. Morgan to you, android. The circumstances haven't changed to that. Ignore him, he's just a little cranky in the morning. We heard a commotion and we thought it'd be wise to check up on you. Still, who could have expected all this? Not sure how they supposedly heard everything from all the way in New Relay, however, details and specifics are far from your biggest concern at present. All that matters is that you clearly don't have to brave Bradbury all on your own anymore. Jasper inspects the room from top to bottom, with his gaze, his aura of seriousness never faltering even for an instant. Judging by that fire in his eyes, he is clearly not pleased by what he sees, and neither is the Siamese woman by his side. My, a party so early in the morning. That has got to be breaking a rule or two. I know the FBI hosts some killer parties, but I never imagined they'd organize one at someone else's house. I must admit, I'm impressed. The FBI agent seems hardly impressed by the two's appearance, opting to meet them head-on with a sarcastic smile and a mocking tone. Well, look who's come to say hi. The leaders of Pandora and its synthetic department themselves. How strange to see the two of you outside of my office. It's been so long since we've had one of our chats over your funny little pastimes. Oh, don't act all cocky with me, Ray. Were you half as smart as you claim to be, you would have expected me to come through those doors a long time ago. Meanwhile, the FBI is sticking their noses where they don't belong. Now that's something you can see coming from a mile away. I suppose I should feel somewhat guilty for stealing your job. After all, spying on poor Isaac here is your prerogative for a change. Mary looks ready to retort once again, but is quickly stopped by her stern superior. Aren't you going to stop squabbling like chickens anytime soon? We didn't come here to play around like children at the park, and neither did you. So tell us what in the world you're doing here, unauthorized I might add, before I report you to your superiors for a breach of contract. Even when being shouted at by a man as frightening as Jasper Bradbury, remains surprisingly cool and composed. Mr. Morgan, if you wanted to call my superiors, you only needed to ask. With a wide grin on his face, Bradbury begins to pretend as though his right hand is a smartphone which he holds close to his ears as it annoyingly rings. Hello? Oh, really? He uses his left hand to cover his fictitious phone's microphone as he turns to face Jasper once again, barely containing his laughter as he does so. It's for me. Very funny. I'm sure your buddies in Congress will love that joke. Oh please, don't be so serious all the time. It's bad for your neck fluff. The dog drops the comedic act and returns to his more familiar professional facade. I'm merely exercising my supervisory duties by checking up on little old Isaac here is all. Nothing more, nothing less. Supervising the synthetics is our duty, Bradbury. And supervising you is mine, Mr. Morgan. Wait, what? What's he talking about? Before you can ask for an explanation, Bradbury's already well into his response to Jasper. Routine inspections are nothing new, as you're quite clearly well aware. Just because we never did them on synthetics before doesn't mean we don't have the authority to do so. I assure you, this is all perfectly legal, not to mention quite understandable in light of recent events. Jasper unceremoniously raises an eyebrow as he realizes what the dog's referring to. You saw the video. Of course I did, who didn't? A despicable affair, really. Those officers truly overstepped their boundaries, don't you think? Trampled all over protocol and made a fool of the force as a result. Jasper definitely didn't expect that kind of response, that's for sure. He likely didn't foresee Bradbury to side with you on that whole debacle, and neither did you, for that matter. There's not much we at the Bureau can do about that, sadly, aside from checking up on the poor victim and making sure that they're alright. Surely you understand why I did that. Isn't that right, Isaac? You try to avoid meeting the man's gaze as he inquisitively looks your way, instead keeping your eyes fixed on the ground below. You could say many things right now for sure, but with Bradbury and Harlan both still in the room, you feel as though your silence is more important than ever. Luckily, Mary quickly picks up your distress without the need for you to voice it. She begins to rain into Bradbury harder than ever before, much to the man's shallow surprise. He's doing wonderfully, thank you, and he'll do even better once he doesn't have to see your ugly mug around anymore. Jasper does his best to keep the fierce-looking woman at bay while he argues with the agent in a milder, though certainly not friendlier manner. If you truly did come here to check up on our synthetic, then I'd say you've spent more than enough doing that as of now. I would advise you and your entourage to leave the premises effective immediately before we have to report you for trespassing on private property. You hesitantly wait for Bradbury's response, for him to turn to face them once again with a devious look in his eyes, ranting that he'll never let either of them leave. However, much to your surprise, none of that ever comes to happen. Very well, I don't see any reason why he should stay any longer either. With a flick of his fingers, his entire team begins heading out the door, taking the long way around the Drake and the cat standing befuddled in the middle of the room. You're leaving? Just like that? Of course, that's what you wanted, wasn't it? After all, we'll have plenty of opportunities to discuss things again in the future. I can afford you a little rest while you ponder on everything we talked about so far. Harlan gives you a final evil stare as he comes near you, but ultimately leaves without making a fuss, merely shaking his head in annoyance as he does so. Mary is of course not very pleased. You are never getting close to Isaac again without our consent, Bradbury. Making promises you can't keep again, Dr. Shelley. Not surprising from the director of the synthetics department. You spot Mary tightening her fist as Bradbury approaches the exit himself, a wide grin on his mug once again. Just before you can cross the threshold between your apartment and the hallway outside, however, he turns to face the three of you a final time. Before I go, what now? There is one last question I wanted to ask, actually. The man's expression becomes surprisingly serious all of a sudden, putting all three of you on edge. We received reports of some disturbances around these parts last night. Some people started a fight a fair distance away from here. Remains of a baseball bat found near the scene are clue enough that the criminals employed deadly force against each other, though no bodies have currently been found. Naturally, we at the Bureau are taking this very seriously, and given that you live nearby, I thought I'd ask Isaac if he knew anything about this. You're too scared to say a word. You're worried that anything you say may and will be used against you if you aren't careful. After some time, however, Jasper forces her hand. Well, do you? Judging from the impatience in his tone, he expects you to answer immediately. Well, I did hear some noises last night while I was coming home, but nothing that resembled a fight. Just cranky door hinges and the like. You've never lied harder before in your life. You reckon if you were still human, your heart would probably burst straight out of your chest right now. Luckily, your android nerves are cold enough that none of the people present have anything to object to your account. I see. Well, that's that, I guess. Thank you for your assistance. We'll continue investigating the incident and we'll be sure to alert you of any further developments. Sorry about that. With that said, Bradbury turns towards the hallway once again, giving you one last look before leaving you for good. Yeah, good riddance, man. Take care, Isaac. Isaac Notero. With that, the man closes the door behind him, leaving the three of you alone in your living room. As you hear his footsteps growing lighter and lighter, so does the heavy burden you feel weighing on your shoulders. Is he gone? Well, that's the question, right? Seems like it, at least. Thank goodness, you have no idea how relieved I am. Dr. Shelley, I need the whole building EMP'd within the next 2 minutes. The suddenness of Jasper's command is enough to shock you to your core, so much so that you don't know how you're even meant to reply. Luckily, it appears as though Mary knows just what to do in this situation. No need to order me around, I was already on it before you even thought about it. I'll be back before you know it. Yeah, the whole building is bugged, no cap. Without explaining herself any further, the scientist runs out of the door with the speed of a cheetah. You're not sure where she's going, but you thought you saw her fiddling with a strange device she must have taken out of her pocket as she left. Seeing as though you're not going to get any explanations from the cat, you might as well try and get something out of the Drake. Oh, hold on, EMP, what's going on? Oh, electromagnetic pulse. A shockwave. Do I really need to explain what this is as well? No, I know what an EMP is, but I still don't know why you'd need one all of a sudden. Jasper scoffs at your inquiry, evidently unhappy to answer your queries, which to him must equate to those of a kindergartner. Do you really think those morons came here to drink tea and play board games? There are likely dozens of hidden cameras recording us as we speak, placed all throughout the apartment, and probably the rest of the building as well, if I had to guess. Sorry for the background noise. You have no idea how the thought never occurred to you before. As ridiculous as it seems, you feel as though you understand today's events a little better. You understand why those agents bothered to refurbish your apartment, why they were here well before you awoke. All they ever wanted was for you to lower your guard and say something incriminating that they could record. I see you understand now. Good. We cannot afford to leave all these illegally placed devices lying around the place. That's why we're going to overcharge the mag reactor powering this building and disable all electronics within a 2-mile radius the hard way. It's the only way to be certain that nobody will eavesdrop on our next conversation. Wait, you're gonna overcharge the mag reactor? You can do that? You don't know what exactly that entails, but you cannot imagine that being very good or very legal. Can they even do that? As far as you know, this whole building is the property of another corporation. Can they really get away with breaking someone else's tech so brazenly? Of course we can. Who do you take us for? Well, that's reassuring, yeah. Or it is, until another thought strikes you. But what if you disable all electronics? What's gonna happen to you? Mary greets you with some confident words of reassurance as she returns from her duties. In her hand lies the same device she pulled from her pockets earlier, hovering her fingers over its screen. You'll be fine, you can rest assured of that. Even a lightning strike wouldn't be enough to pierce through your defenses, though you might still feel a little tickle. Damn, it's a walking Terminator, man. He's like the advanced, newest version. It's like an Iron Man suit. You realize that she's readying herself to activate the device a little too late to stop her. Oh, hold on. At least let me get out of here first. You felt the entire building tremble slightly, as if it had been caught in the midst of an earthquake. The lights briefly flicker off and on repeatedly while a surge of invisible electricity coursed through the building, likely wrecking everything in its path. You check yourself all over to ensure that the EMP left no lasting damage on you other than a light tremble in your legs. It looks like you survived the ordeal wholly unscathed. Dear Lord, was that it? Indeed it was. That should take care of our little intruder problem. You take a swift look around the apartment where the damage caused by the EMP is most evident. There seems to be a few broken light bulbs in the kitchen, near the stove, and your computer and mini fridge look utterly fried, but that's all as far as the living room is concerned, surprisingly enough. You half expected the entire room to go up in flames as all the devices Bradbury installed in your sleep blew up from under the couch or behind a poster. But so far, everything looks mostly in order. They must have hidden their toys even better than you thought. However, with the entire complex having been fried from within, you don't expect they'll prove useful either way. It relieves you to know that those people won't be allowed to spy on you quite so easily anymore. However, Isaac, everything okay? Yeah, I'm alright. I was just noticing all the damage that EMP caused is all. If this is what it did to my place, I can't even begin to imagine what it did to everyone else's. I know you were trying to protect me from Bradbury, but I can't help but feel as though we roped too many innocent people into this mess as a result. You're especially worried for your friends a few blocks up, the last people you wanted to involve, and yet they'll likely suffer because of this all the same. Oh, don't worry about them, we've got them covered. Indeed, we'll be reimbursing the residents of all the damages in no time, and I'll have Mary come up with some ridiculous explanation to justify the blast. These people didn't deserve this annoyance, I'll grant you this much, but we'll see to it that they're taken care of nonetheless. The Drake's words are more than enough to put your mind at ease. Well, yeah, he's this damn CEO. You definitely didn't expect him to care so much about the locals' needs, especially after how arrogantly he dismissed yours just yesterday. However, it's nice to know that he had everything planned out from the start, at least. Looks like Daphne and Apollo are in good hands, though you likely end up apologizing to them for the trouble either way. Well then, with Bradbury's toys taken care of and your mind at ease, you can finally tell me what in the ever-loving F is going on. He turns to face you personally, his eyes angrier than you've ever seen them. You have 3 seconds to tell me everything about what happened yesterday night before I get really angry. Last night? Don't play dumb with me, I know something happened. It was clear as day on this fool's face. Mary turns to face the other way, avoiding Jasper's gaze as if it were the plague. Luckily, it didn't seem as though Bradbury noticed it. But I did, so start talking before I toss both of you into the elevator shaft. Looks like there's really no way out of this one. Though you fear for both your safety and your friends, the only thing you can do is come clean about your actions. Well, where do I start? From the beginning. We have plenty of time to go through everything. Alright, I'll be as thorough as can be then. I was walking home last night. This better be a skip, man. Okay, good. I then spent some time at their place and returned home soon after. When I woke up, those lunatics were already in the living room. And that's all I can remember. Well, mostly everything you remember. You took a few creative liberties with your account of the event so as to try and minimize Jasper's anger. Some things you only gloss over briefly, like Natalie's involvement in the whole affair, while others you avoided mentioning entirely, especially towards the end. You don't know how useful it'd be to mention that shade from yesterday to the pair before you, given that you're still wholly unsure whether it was truly there or not. Until you're certain, it's probably best to keep that detail to yourself. Your decision was clearly sound, as even your partial recounting of the events is enough to send the Drake into a fit of rage. And you knew about all this, and you didn't find it important to inform me immediately? His rage towards the Siamese cat is practically palpable. Even yesterday, he never quite reached these levels of barely contained fury. How was I supposed to inform you? You were already asleep by the time I found out. I said, don't play dumb with me. Did you suddenly forget emails and notifications exist? You could have alerted me of this as soon as I woke up, instead of letting me discover this in the midst of that face-to-face with Bradbury. Assuming you didn't intend on keeping me in the dark about this affair entirely. Judging by the annoyed look on the feline's face, that might have actually been her plan all along. What was she even thinking? Oh, relax already. The situation is not as dire as you think it is. Bradbury made it abundantly clear that he merely suspects a fight broke out last night. There's no reason to be so agitated. Dr. Shelley, you've been dealing with the FBI for even longer than I have. Are you truly so thick in the head that you still haven't learned anything about them? The FBI never suspects anything. They know if they weren't sure Isaac was involved in that incident, they never would have bothered bringing it up to us in the first place. The only reason why we didn't leave the building in handcuffs is because they didn't have any solid evidence to prove it. Or they don't have. The Drake's words, though certainly frightening, are also somewhat confusing. Wait, if they don't have any proof, that means we're good, right? Jasper focuses rage on you once again, now that you've given him the perfect opportunity to do so. Do you really think the FBI, of all things, cares about proof? Proof only matters to the citizens, the justice system, the government, and so on, to those who actually care or should care about legality and accountability. But for the feds, for them proof is just trifling paperwork, a little afterthought they can present to their superiors so nobody questions their involvement or actions. If they know you've done something worth ruining your life over, and they do, they will do everything in their power to destroy you. It doesn't matter what they have to do in order to achieve this goal. And you know who must protect you from that. Who's going to cover up for your reckless, idiotic decision? Us, of course. Mary does her best to defend you in spite of how little ammunition she has at her disposal. Don't be so harsh on him. All he did was defend himself and an innocent bystander from a band of crooks. We should be celebrating that, not harassing him for it. Sadly, it seems like Jasper won't be so easily swayed. Do you think context or good motives will be enough to protect him? Have you been living under a rock for the past 40 years? Those things have been irrelevant for ages now, as both of you should be well aware of. Or are you truly nothing more than overgrown infants? The man is right, as much as it pains you to admit. We had those same thoughts this morning as well, while you were mulling over last night's events. You thought you'd be safe because there was no chance that those thugs would have confessed to their crime, but now that the FBI knows you were there trying to defend yourself, maybe this is the perfect time to remind you both that self-defense is illegal. The law is quite clear. Anybody who commits acts of violence for any reason is immediately judged a criminal and sentenced to jail. It doesn't matter whether you're the aggressor or not, the court won't see the difference. Mary sighs at Jasper's explanation, tapping her shoe against the floor in an attempt to express her rage. That's kind of true, yeah. In courts, yeah, you're gonna have to prove that you actually did self-defense. You're gonna have to prove that. But let's say you're the one who knows martial arts, and you're fighting two people, and you go a little bit too much. Well, they might add in a case for you. They'll say, yeah, it was self-defense. You're good in that, but you injured him, blah blah blah. You broke a bone, blah blah blah. We're gonna slap you with some kind of, I don't know, misdemeanor. I don't know. As I say, I am no law expert, but it just depends, the case. What a stupid law! Who even thought this was a good idea? Your heroic views are sadly very much outdated. No court in this country will recognize Isaac's action as just, and no lawyer will be able to defend him if it's discovered that he was involved in any capacity. The Drake turns to face you once again, an irate look in his eyes. Hence why it was quite clear with you yesterday that you were to avoid any and all confrontations at all costs. Now look at what you've done. I don't know what you were hoping to achieve there, but I hope you're proud of yourself. Not everyone could sink an entire company's image and reputation as consistently and effortlessly as you. As much as it pains you to say it, Jasper is perfectly right. You really did jump the gun yesterday. You thought they would have been fine because of what Mary said earlier that day and because of your reasons for helping out Apollo, but you can see now that all you did was fall into yet another pitfall. If you knew you were only going to hurt yourself, perhaps nothing would have changed, but now that you know that everyone, including Mary and Natalie, could find themselves in trouble because of you, that's another thing entirely. You're right. I definitely didn't think this through. Come on, Jasper, I told you not to be so harsh. Look! You're scaring the poor kid. The feline scientist steps between the two of you once again, a confident smirk on her face. Besides, I think you're exaggerating things again. Have you already forgotten our conversation from yesterday? Isaac is untouchable, plain and simple. Proof or no proof, involvement or no involvement, it really doesn't matter. There's nothing the FBI can do about it either way. You do recall her saying that back at her office the other day all too well. It's because of her words that you didn't think too much about your involvement in this mess initially. Jasper's words made you think for a moment that what she said did not apply in this situation, but judging by the pride in her voice, Mary seems to vehemently disagree. In case you need a reminder, Isaac here currently doesn't exist according to our legal system. Until synthetics are sorted out as either human beings or objects without sentience, nothing that he does can be considered a crime. Hence, Bradbury's threats are all null and void. There's nothing any of us needs to be afraid of. I think what Jasper here is saying is just a matter of, okay, don't push your luck. Don't go out there full Terminator mode, ending people's lives and whatnot. Because there's a limit. Maybe, yeah, Isaac will be safe from the law, but what about the company? you know, I don't know, maybe the reputation would sink to the ground so hard than I don't know, than an apple falling from a tree up to the onto the ground. Oh yeah, sorry. You got to hand it to Mary. She's always standing by your side whenever you need her. Were she not here, you'd be at the complete mercy of the venomous drake before you, whose gaze seems to suddenly soften somewhat upon some pondering on the woman's words, much to her surprise. That much is true, I'll give you that. Wait, you're saying she's right? You didn't expect Jasper to capitulate so quickly, especially after the way he treated the both of you since this conversation began. You kind of expected him to keep professing your guilt until he stormed off your apartment in a fit of rage. You are indeed untouchable, but not quite as thoroughly as that moron thinks you are. It took only a second for the man's anger to burn bright in his eyes once more, much to her surprise. This time, however, you can tell that it's more subdued, more calculating. Like he's getting ready to hammer the final nail in the doctor's metaphorical coffin. Let's start with the obvious. Being immune to the law means nothing as far as PR is concerned. Exactly. Reputation. Public relations. Oh please, we already settled this yesterday. The people are supporting Isaac, or will eventually. Not if they find out Isaac was involved in an all-out brawl. They won't. It's one thing to refuse to comply with an officer non-violently one time, but beating up 3 people no matter the reason is an entirely different beast. When people see how many incidents Isaac's been involved in as of late, the gears in their heads will start turning. They'll think Isaac's some kind of synthetic vigilante, or just a straight-up thug. Those of them who fear synthetics are just Chrono's next incarnation will have a field day with these theories. And I don't need to explain what will happen to both this project and this company if that happens. You can't say you disagree with Jasper's prophecy. All of those expectations are just as reasonable as Bradbury's objections from earlier. In your heart, you know that this is all just another ludicrous conspiracy theory, as does Mary, and yet neither of you can quickly find an argument to counter Jasper's with. But let's say that none of this happens. Let's say that the public is entirely supportive of our superhero over here, and that the FBI is too lazy to bother arresting us for engineering another weapon of mass destruction. Not even that could protect Isaac from the flaws within your untouchable argument, namely the fact that our synthetics aren't untouchable at all. Once again, you have no idea what Jasper's talking about. What do you mean? Even you said that I can't commit crimes anymore, so in theory I should be safe. And you are, yes, from the law. But you're still in the dark as to Jasper's true intent. The cat appears to be more or less aware as to what he's referring to. Huh, so you actually read those papers I gave you. Now that's surprising. I have, because unlike you, I actually care about the finer details. And you know what I found? There's a brief silence as the Drake tries to steady his breath, clearly anticipating your reaction to his final argument. It's true that you cannot be considered a criminal as far as the law is concerned, but neither can you be considered a victim. Your little non-existence gimmicks work both ways, you see. You may be unable to commit crimes as you're not formally considered a person, indeed, but because of that very reason, no one can commit crimes against you either. So if someone brought a gun to him and shot him in the face, that's not a crime because it doesn't exist. But then, anything anyone does to you for any reason is fair game, yes. Theft, assault, termination, these are merely some of the crimes that you have no legal way of protecting yourself from. You are entirely defenseless. Oh no. The situation is even worse than you initially thought, and your expectations were already as low as they could get. Is Jasper truly implying that anyone could jump you at any moment? Yo, you're jumping my boy Isaac, man, for any reason and suffer no consequences whatsoever? That essentially means that you're a billion-dollar living target for haters and posers alike. Is there really nothing I could do if that were to happen? Of course there is. Beat the ever-living crap out of them before they do the same to you. Simple. Mary's reply is swift and tactless, befitting of the jester-like cat. Though her words sound more like a joke than a real answer, the tone of her voice leaves no doubts in your mind as to her seriousness. You may not be a weapon of mass destruction, as Jasper described you earlier, but as an android, you still pack quite a punch. Nobody can mess with you, and if they do, they'll encounter a much stronger resistance than they could possibly handle. Even ability bearers will have trouble dealing with you. So as far as I'm concerned, you're perfectly safe in my book. Being unaffected by the law isn't a disadvantage. It's an asset. The feline seems quite sure of herself, that's for sure. At least for someone who unironically suggested you treat any would-be assailants to an extreme makeover. She's kind of right. If you're one of those strong, you know what I'm saying? If anybody read Baki and his father, Yujiro Hanma. Makes sense. In spite of how absolutely preposterous her plan sounds, you have to admit that it is a viable option at your disposal. It's not like there's much else that you could ever do to protect yourself. After all, especially in these times where everyone seems to have some reason or another to be mad at you. Needless to say, Jasper's nowhere near of the same mind as you. Tell that to all the people that are going to freak out as soon as they find out what Isaac did in the last 2 days alone. Oh, chill out. As long as nobody finds out, everything will be fine. Though the lady tries to play that out as yet another one of her jokes, Jasper is far from amused, and truth be told, so are you this time. That is all you can say? Pray that no one finds out about this? This is exactly why you cannot be trusted at the helm of this company, much less this project. And what are you gonna do about it? Go cry to the owners again? The Drake scoffs at the woman's retort, merely crossing his arms as he regains his hold on his emotions. As a matter of fact, I've already updated them on the situation yesterday. You have? Sorry for the background noise. Somebody just drove by. You don't like the sound of that. Even Mary looks at least a little shook at his discovery. Of course I did. I did say someone had to inform them of all the stunts you two have been pulling as of late. That someone might as well be you personally. Isaac too. Knowing that you're going to be involved is enough to put your friend severely on edge. She silently bites her lip as Jasper delivers an answer to her question. That is correct. You didn't intend on speaking on his behalf in the event that he's called to explain himself, did you? What am I saying? Of course you did. You always... Jasper's rant is interrupted by a device, likely a smartphone, that suddenly begins to ring in his pocket. Without so much as a sigh, the reptile turns tail and begins to head towards the door, denying the scientist the opportunity to shout back at him. Well, that's the cleanup crew arriving, right on time, I might add. We will continue this conversation in front of the owners. Right now, I need to focus on repairing the damages to the building. I advise the two of you to keep your schedules free in the coming days. When the owners come calling, you better drop everything and be ready to answer. With heavy steps, the Drake makes his way out of your apartment, an ever annoyed gaze in his eyes. An awkward silence fills the room now that only you and Mary remain in it, but not for long. Oh, what a loudmouth. Who does that jerk even think he is? Always complaining about something and making up problems that don't exist. If he only stayed in his lane, He wasn't wrong, Mary. The feline seems very surprised to hear you speak out against her. She's like, my baby, I created you. How dare you do this to Mama? Really? You're siding with him? After everything he said about you? Can you stop pretending like everything's fine for a moment for F's sake? Though you hate having to yell at Mary, given that she's spent the last 20 minutes defending you from Jasper and Bradbury both, you can't help but be at least a little angry at the cat lady after everything that just happened. You claim over and over that this is nothing worth losing our minds over, but it is. I got into an actual fight yesterday, Mary. A regular person would be going to jail for that right now, no matter whose side they were on. And how is that my fault? Oh, she's got a point. How is that her fault, really? You're taken aback by the woman's sudden interjection, which completely knocks the wind out of your argument. Are you saying I'm the one that forced you to intervene? Is that why you're mad at me? Because I never said you needed to pick that fight, and neither did Natalie from what she told me. In fact, she's the one who tried to convince you to back out, and you're the one who insisted on getting involved. I never wanted to get involved. It takes you a moment to sort through your thoughts, trying to make sense of your reckless actions last night. I just wanted to help out that kid, do the right thing. And the right thing is to end this video right now. It's a little bit too long, I'm sorry about that, but yeah. Hopefully support this channel by subscribing, liking, commenting, you know, anything really other than those three options. And thank you for watching. Hopefully stay safe, good luck on this new year, and yeah, bye!